Hey guys, this is Balance from WCReplays.com, bringing you another audio commentary for the site. It's copyrighted, so don't steal it. Today I have another Night Elf vs. Human matchup for you guys. I actually wanted to do a Night Elf vs. Orc or maybe a vs. Undead for you today, but I couldn't find any good replays for those matchups. So instead we have a Night Elf vs. Human on a good replay that was just posted on WCReplays.com. This is going to be very similar to my last commentary, but also very different in some respects. So my last commentary on Human vs. Elf, it was Echo Isles, I believe. Yeah, it was Echo Isles, and I did a Dark Ranger strategy on Echo Isles. So this is another Dark Ranger strategy, but this is on Terenas Stand. And so one of the things I'll be talking about is how playing a game versus Human on Terenas Stand is very, very different from playing a game on any other map. You know, there's just a lot of map-specific things you have to keep in mind when you're playing on this particular map. And you know, with any map, you always have to sort of tailor your strategy to the map involved. But I'll be talking about a lot of things that are sort of Terenas Stand specific. So if you're interested in this map, and especially this matchup on this map, you should tune in. Hopefully I'll have some good tips for you guys today. So go ahead and get this replay synced up at the 15-second mark. The two players, by the way, are MYM Moon is going to be our Night Elf player today. Always a favorite. And on the human side, we have MTW Nilk, or Nilknarf, as we all know him. So they are going to be playing on Terenas Stand. Go ahead and get this synced up, like I said, at the 15-second mark with your perspective on MYM Moon. One-time speed, Fog of War, off. Before I get started, one thing I will mention is before I hear it in the in the feedback on this replay, I expect that some players will point out that these two, some listeners will point out that these two players could arguably be of sort of different levels. You know, MYM Moon. Moon is obviously a world-renowned player, generally regarded as one of the best players in the game. You know, tons of success on the on sort of the world scale. International tournaments and everything else. You know, he's beaten everybody. Whereas Nilknarf, while being one of the best American players, has yet to achieve that kind of success. So you might argue that this isn't as interesting because the two players, Moon is just a lot better than Nilknarf. And I would counter that in two different ways. First of all, I would say that this, hopefully you'll agree with me, is a very good game. It's a very close game. Nilknarf plays very well, and Moon definitely does not win, you know, hand over fist. So it actually is a good replay, regardless of these two players. It's a very good game. I think Nilknarf is getting to be, you know, a very, very strong player by anybody's standards, and this is a good example of that. So that's one thing. And another thing is that even if they were of, you know, different skill levels, I think it's interesting to see you know, a very high-class player like Nilknarf get beaten, you know, soundly. I think that's also educational, because you can see, you can hopefully pick up on the things that, you know, a player like Moon does that, you know, causes him to win so easily versus somebody who's obviously very, very good. But, you know, in this case, like I said, you know, close game, good replay, so it's actually just, you know, straight-up good game that I have for you guys today. Alright, so all those things having been said, let's get this started. Again, 15 seconds, 1x speed, MYM Moon's perspective, Fog of War off. Unpause in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so the replay is at 21, 22, 23, 24. Cool. So you'll notice that Moon is spawning at the upper left-hand position, where Nilknarf is spawning at the bottom right. And Moon immediately opens up with a standard tavern build to get his Dark Ranger. So another thing we should address is why Dark Ranger on Terenas Stand. So the Dark Ranger, as I mentioned before, is an overall useful hero against Human. It provides a pretty good counter to a number of things that they can throw at you. You know, it remains useful at various points in the game. You know, if they try to tower rush you, which is a possibility on Terenas Stand, they can tower rush you right off the bat, or they can tower rush you right after getting their level 2. In both cases, you can be prepared for that, especially if you scouted. You can have a lot of skeletons ready, make quick work of their peasants, and easily fight off the tower rush. The Dark Ranger can be a very strong hero for defending against that. Similarly, if they try to expand, you know, the Dark Ranger is a very useful harassment hero for killing peasants. If you have the skeletons, you have this sort of snowball effect where you kill the skeletons at the expansion. I'm sorry, you kill the peasants at the expansion with your skeletons, and you know, the skeletons multiply. Or, you know, if they play, you know, any version of the standard strategy, the Dark Ranger is just generally good against the rifle caster push, with silence for their casters and big skeletons to help take out the riflemen. So overall, Dark Ranger is just a generally useful hero against any number of strategies that the human player can do. And I'll also add that the Demon Hunter is probably slightly weaker on this map than he is on a map where you, like, say, you know, Terenas Stand. The thing about, map like, say, Twisted Meadows, rather. The thing about Terenas Stand is you don't have a prayer of stopping the human player from getting level 2 if he does this this creep pattern that Nilknar's doing right now. You can see on the bottom right hand side of the map. You don't really there's really no chance of stopping it. And so, you know, the best you can hope for is to even if you run straight there, your human players are going to be at level 2. And the Demon Hunter is generally stronger in, you know, cases where you can do a little bit more harassment. The Demon Hunter obviously still works on this map, as does Warden and any number of heroes that you might like to try. But it's slightly less good than on maps where you can be, you know, harassing them the whole time and actually sort of have a say in their leveling process. So, you'll notice what Moon does. He, instead of running his Dark Ranger back to his own side of the map to creep, he immediately takes a more aggressive stance and starts creeping in a pattern that actually takes him closer to Nilknar's base. So this is kind of a cool thing to do on this particular map for several reasons. Dark Ranger, one thing about the Dark Ranger is it's sort of she sort of is a timing reliant hero, where you want to make sure to have skeletons ready at opportune times. So if you creep near your opponent's base and then run into his base, you'll have those skeletons ready, which you can see right now. Moon's doing some harassment on Nilknar's side. But what you decide to do after you creep your first camp with the Dark Ranger as you're moving towards the other side of the map is really going to be based on what the human player is doing. And if you were paying attention, you noticed a minute ago that Moon had a scout wisp that was sort of following Nilknar's army around and saw Nilknar moving to the north side of the map. And so Moon is fully aware that Nilknar is expanding on the north side of the map. And he's actually sending another wisp right up there to check it again, just to verify that that's happening. So given that that's the case, Moon, and that Moon isn't actually up there to creepjack him or anything like that, Moon will take you know, advantage of the fact that Nilknar is otherwise occupied. Sorry, dropped my microphone. Moon will take advantage of the fact that Nilknar is otherwise occupied, and do a little bit of harassment on his base. Nilknar countered it nicely with the Arcane Tower and the peasants repairing, so Moon instead decided to pull back, get a few more skeletons in his army, and grab level 2. I mean, all the while staying on Nilknar's side of the map, so that later on when Moon... It's actually advantageous for him to be creeping on his own side of the map. He'll still have all of his creeps there. So you'll notice what Moon does. He waits a little bit. You know, he scouted with that scout wisp and saw that the town hall wasn't up yet. So he waited a little bit of time until the town hall was constructing, and then as soon as the town hall was constructing, he made a move to go see if he could do some harassment on those constructing peasants. You know, if you're able to kill the constructing peasants when a human's you know, making his town hall, you gain a pretty nice advantage for yourself. And so Moon, you know, used that Staff of Teleportation to jump up there with his Dark Ranger, and do some harassment on those peasants. You know, he brought his archers and his skeletons up there as well. But you know, Nilknar played that really nicely, focused down the Dark Ranger,